My name is Aisha, and I'm an Impostor. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt that your achievements or the things you've achieved are just by a stroke of luck and you don't really deserve it? What about situations whereby you're given warning with criticism and you ignore them because you feel like you're better than anybody else?
Today I'm here to talk to you about imposter syndrome and the Dunning-Kruger effect. A lot of people are wondering what imposter syndrome is. Imposter syndrome is the notion whereby individuals who have been in positions or achievements believe that they do not deserve it. While the Dunning-Kruger effect, in simple terms, is overconfidence. Most of this syndromes and effects starts with people who have gained recognition very early. And I'm here to tell you that I am one of them. I have had my moments of self-doubt and insecurity, and I have had my moments of low-lows. And I know all of us have had that. I thought it was just me who was facing this, but while I was reading a book some years ago by Michelle Obama, the name of the book is Becoming, I found the word imposter syndrome, and it made me think of it. No matter how hard I worked, no matter so many recognitions I would get, achievements, compliments, I never internalized it. It was more of a pressure on me, like this extreme, overwhelming feeling that I couldn't accept. Because no matter how much I worked, I believed it wasn't mine. And it was just an oversight somewhere, or somebody just saw me and thought, we should give it to her. That is what imposter syndrome is. Dunning-Kruger effect. We're in a school, the University of Maiduguri. The most simplest example of Dunning-Kruger effect is when you have an exam and you feel like the material is too easy, or I think the teacher is lying, so I know what he taught us. And then we decide not to study. And before you know it, you're failing. And you start blaming other people for situations that you created. When you look at both imposter syndrome and Dunning-Kruger effect, we always think that, there's a huge difference between them, but they're more similar than anything. Look at self-assurance and confidence. Normally, we actually encourage it, but there's a thin line between self-assurance and confidence, and ignorance and arrogance. While there's also a thin line between self-doubt, insecurity, and imposter syndrome. There's always a thin line somewhere trying to balance who you are as a person. When I thought of moments where imposter syndrome has held me back, like there's a specific moment that I do with people that I did not realize till 2019, is that when people ask me questions, I actually tell them what they want to hear or what their bias is. In my head, I call it intellectual flattery, and we all do it, sincerely. We all do intellectual flattery. We tell people what they want to hear in order to not feel like we're overconfident, unintelligent, or people will judge us. In those moments, I sincerely believed that I couldn't be better than what I was. And as all of us face it, we have to also look at overcoming it and also recognizing it ourselves. Imposter syndrome is harder to recognize than anything, because when you're in that moment of self-doubt and feeling, you do not see anything else. Sometimes it takes an outside opinion to tell you, oh, you're actually being too hard on yourself. You need to tell yourself, I am intelligent, I am worthy, I have earned whatever I have got. Always remind yourself of this. While the Kruger effect is harder to, actually more easier to recognize in persons, people with Kruger effect are easier to manage or see because they do not believe anybody is right. They always have this us versus them persona with their peers and superiors and people around them. They're always trying to create conflict, telling you that you don't know anything. And yes, overconfidence is good. But when you're knowledgeable about a matter and you're actually, how will I say, nuanced about it, not dogmatic or dictatorial about an issue that you know, listening, understanding people, and telling the people the right information. That is how to overcome. The problem with imposter syndrome is that it actually stops you from growing. It's very debilitating. I have faced it for years, and I will tell you sincerely, it is very debilitating. Every compliment, instead of uplifting you, pushes you down. Every compliment, you look for the hidden meaning behind it. And when you're given opportunities, you reject them, like I do, or overextend myself. For some people who have known me for years, they know that I'm always doing something, even at the middle of the night. Because that's what imposter syndrome has caused for me over the years. It has made me literally stop whatever it's actually very hard to live with, but we're moving past it. And after overcoming imposter syndrome, the next thing was, before I knew it, I couldn't create a balance, and I was in the Kroger effect. I started lacking with, I know it. What's the big idea? We all have had our know-it-all moments. It's just that mine was a little bit too extreme before I actually sat down one day and I recognized that, wow, Aisha, you actually need to step up. You know, you're lacking behind. Normally I have a discordant brain. When I mean discordant is that my brain goes, I start from this story, I go to Z, and I come back to Y or B, normally. So when you're lacking and you're overconfident to the that kind of brain, it creates a whole lot of problems, rash mistakes before you know it. Imposter syndrome can happen to anybody at different stages of life. I have said it happens to young people mostly who gain recognition, but the reality it happens to people at different stages, at different times of life. It is important to recognize that in yourself and move past it. What I mean move past it is that, for example, if you're given a promotion at work, don't start thinking, I cannot do this. I do not have enough achievements for this. I do not have enough experience with this. Why don't you try and tell yourself something like, my superiors see something competent in me that I do not see right now, but I will learn to see. The thin line between imposter syndrome and Kroger effect is something that we all should have. Because the way we interact with people matters. The way we talk to people, even ourselves, is important. We're all a set of people with different identities and moments and everything. So remind yourself in every moment that, am I being harsh on myself, or am I being too confident in myself? For me, the last thing I would say is that, always remember this, you are great as a person. But you never really reach the peak in life. It's just a moment that we can actually move past, either positively or negatively. But always remind yourself that you are great. Thank you.